Hello, this is Callum from the Outreach team at Aberystwyth University, and today we'll be talking about A-level cryptography and what you need to know for it. In this talk, we'll talk about what is cryptography, the different types of encryption algorithms there are, and a little bit about ciphers and some ciphers. So what is cryptography? Cryptography is a method of secure messages using codes, so that those who have the code know how to translate it into plain text. So in more layman's terms, this is being able to take a message, translate it into a way that people can't read it, and then being able to translate that back again into the original message we had. So in this case, we have this piece of text here, we've translated it into a bunch of garbled words that most people wouldn't be able to look at it and understand what it was supposed to say, but then being able to turn that back into the original message. So, what is encryption and decryption? Well, quite simply, encryption is the process of turning plain text into ciphertext, and decryption is the opposite, so turning ciphertext into plain text. So plain text, it would be the common language that we use. In this case, we'll say it's English. So we have the plain text here of this is the secret message. We can encrypt that into the ciphertext where it's just a bunch of jarble that people don't understand, and then being able to decrypt that back into the plain text, as we mentioned before. So whilst we're talking about encryption algorithms, it's really important to talk about keys as well. A key is a string of characters used within an encryption algorithm to generate a cipher. Keys can either be private or public. Public keys can be seen by anyone, and private keys should be kept secret and not be shared with anyone. We'll come back to the concept of keys in just a second, but for now, this is all you really need to know. Okay, so let's talk about symmetric encryption. Symmetric encryption requires only one private key. The key needs to be shared to the receiver before the cipher can be decrypted, and it's important that the sender and recipient keep the key secret, otherwise the messages could be intercepted. Let's look at this diagram here. We have one key, and this is a private key, that can be used to encrypt plain text into a ciphertext, and we can use the same key to decipher the ciphertext back into the original plain text. These keys would be used by two different parties to encrypt and decrypt. Okay, so the advantages of symmetric encryption. It tends to be quite faster compared to asymmetric. Encrypted data can be transferred without much threat, as the key doesn't travel with the encrypted data. So let's say over the internet, only the ciphertext gets transferred. So anyone that wants to intercept the message is just jarbled to them. There's no real purpose. Only the sender and the receiver can decrypt this message to know what it actually means. So yeah, only systems that have the secret key can decrypt the message. So some of the disadvantages of symmetric encryption. Both the sender and receiver need the key beforehand to be able to send and receive messages. This can be quite a pain, having to think of a way of sending the key. Obviously, you can just do it in person, but for a lot of applications, this isn't really an option. So the key needs to be sent in secret before you can start sending the messages, yep, like we said. And if the key gets leaked at all messages will be compromised, and at that point you're kind of screwed. So then we have something called asymmetric encryption. This has two keys, a public key and a private key. We use the public key to encrypt the plain text, while we use the private key to decrypt the ciphertext. So the public key can be given out to anyone who would want to send you a message, and only you can decrypt it because you are the one with the private key. It's also really important to note that in asymmetric encryption we use something called digital signatures. In short, it's a mathematical technique that can validate the authenticity of a message. It's pretty much like a handwritten signature when you send it off. So if you send someone a message, you can be sure that that person is the one who sent it. So some of the advantages of asymmetric encryption is that it's more secure, as you don't need to share the private key. the problems with having to distribute the keys is eliminated, as you don't need to exchange any keys in secret. You only need to share the public key, and the private key is meant for you and only you. And the use of digital signatures let the recipient verify who the sender is. Some of the disadvantages of asymmetric encryption are that it's more time intensive, so it tends to be slower. If the recipient loses their private key, they won't be able to decrypt any of your messages. So if a bad actor identifies a person's private key, they can read all the messages, and then all your messages have been compromised. So next, let's talk about ciphers real quick. In this section, we're going to talk about two main ciphers, the Xor Cipher and the Xor Cipher. To start with the Xor Cipher, each letter of the alphabet gets shifted by an amount determined by the key. So if the key would say is 3, you would shift the alphabet 3 spaces to look more like this. So in this case, we'll have A in ciphertext would equal to D, H would equal to K, and S equal to V. Now let's look at this in an example to give you a more clear image of how this works. So using a shift cipher with a key of 5 to the left, solve this cipher, and we have a bunch of jabbled here. So to start, it would be a pretty good idea to make a table like you've seen before in the last slide. Or if you prefer, you can use a Xor Cipher wheel. This is available in the pack, or you can just find one online. It's up to you and your preference. It doesn't really matter, but for these examples, I find that a table is a lot more clear to demonstrate what's going on. So here I've made the table. All you have to do really for this is take the alphabet, because it's 5 spaces long, you just need to move it. So now in ciphertext, A equals to F, F equals to K, N equals to S. You get the idea. So now if we take this ciphertext, we can start translating it. So F now becomes A, G becomes B, there we go, J becomes E, and then W becomes R, and then so on and so forth. You can do this throughout the whole until you get the plain text back of Aber is better than Bangor. So there are some problems with the Xor Cipher. This method of encryption is very hackable nowadays. If you're using the standard English alphabet, there are only 25 possibilities. So it's quite easy for computers to brute force their way to get the answer. So these are all the possibilities for the plain text of FJW, blah, blah, blah. And it would be really easy for a computer to just brute force it, give you all these answers, and you can use some common sense into finding what is the real meaning of this text. Next, we'll talk about the Xor Cipher. With the Xor Cipher, you can encrypt binary numbers with a key using the Xor function. So, to make this a bit more clear, say now we have this message in binary of 0110. We have a key that is 1100. We use the Xor function on the message with the key till we can get the ciphertext. So we have 01, the Xor of that would be 1, 1, 1, 0, 1, 0, 1, 0, 0, 0. And then we can use the exact same key with the exact same Xor function on the cipher to get the original message back. It's really quite clever. Now, let's look at an example. Using the Xor Cipher, encrypt the word hey with an exclamation mark using this key. And here we've provided you with what the ASCII values are for HEY exclamation mark. To solve, let's start with the letter H and then work our way through. So we have our binary for H here, we have our key, and we can just start working on the Xor. So 0, 0, they're the same, so it's 0. 1, 1, they're the same, so it's 0. 01, they're different, so it's 1. 01, different, 1. 10, different, 1. So on and so forth. Till we finish with H, repeat that for E, Y, exclamation mark, until you get these are answers here. So H equals to 00111110, E equals to, 0001011, Y equals, one exclamation mark equals, and so on and so forth. And that's pretty much it for what you need to know for ciphers at A level. I hope you found this really useful. Along with this pack, we've attached a small worksheet to work through just to make sure you understand everything. And I hope you have a wonderful day. Thank you very much.